Well, this Saturday will be a reunion for a certain quarterback. Jackson Arnold's past meets his present Saturday when the 22nd ranked Auburn Tigers take on the number 11 Oklahoma Sooners in Norman. Arnold has been the X factor. We know that for the Tigers so far. Thrown for 500 yards there, 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, and he's been using the legs as well. When it comes to his replacement in John Mateer, these two, let's just say this isn't the first time they met. Had some meetings there in District High School in Texas, but this is a much bigger stage, and take a look at the numbers. What I mean by that this year so far. Arnold right there when it comes to passing yards, just a little bit over $160 there. But then Mateer, 314 plus. But look at the passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns, almost identical. This is also the first time since 2002 quarterbacks in the SEC have 4 more passing and rushing touchdowns through 3 games. All right, for more of the showdown, I want to welcome in the guys from 24/7 Sports here, Jason Caldwell, I should say, and Josh Callaway there from 24/7 Sports. And Jason, for obvious reasons, I want to start with you. We're labeling this as a revenge game for Jackson. Saturday would be almost to a year when he got benched by Venables here in Norman. But most players would tell you that it doesn't mean much. But I'm curious, what is the buzz that you've noticed with him the closer we get to game time?
Yeah, no, he's pretty straightforward, and I think it's been pretty easy for both sides of this one to go, hey, both sides needed to move on, and it's worked out well for both sides so far. So I think that's been the key for Jackson Arnold. He's like, look, just and it's not just another game, but that's how you have to treat it, because playing in the SEC with this schedule, you got a whole lot left on the meat of the bone for this one. So I think for Jackson, it's been, hey, just go back, try to handle the emotions, take care of business, and he has done that so far this season, been really patient in the offense, hasn't tried to force things, and obviously I think that'll be a huge key for him on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating just to see how Jackson handles this, how Oklahoma fans kind of receive him. I think it's been a bit of a conversation this week around here of what kind of reception is he going to get. I think a lot of fans feel, a certain kind of way just about the way he played last year, but I don't think anyone has any sort of beef with the effort Jackson gave. And certainly, I think most OU fans recognize he was not exactly set up for success a year ago with the offensive coordinator hire didn't work out. He was fired in midseason. The injuries, the weapons, they had no receivers a year ago. So it's not like he was exactly put in a very advantageous situation a year ago. But at the same time, there's a bit of that feeling of like, you can't let your former quarterback come into your house and beat you, right? So while I think there's not really a lot of bad blood here between Jackson and Oklahoma, Brent Venables certainly said all positive things. All of Jackson's former teammates have said only positive things. You know that Oklahoma really wants to win this game. And this has been one that's been circled since, the offseason, since Jackson, really even before that, since Jackson decided to transfer to Auburn. Everyone kind of said, hey, they come to Norman next year. And so there's a lot of excitement about this one. I think it's without a doubt the top storyline and the talk of the town right now is Jackson Arnold coming back to Norman. And this is a game that Oklahoma has to win. You just can't let your former quarterback stroll back in here and beat you on Saturday.
Yeah, we know there's definitely a chip there, no matter what Jackson may tell you going into this game on Saturday. But Jason, bigger picture for the Tigers. They're looking to go 4-0 for the first time since 2019, but there could be some bumps on that schedule. I want to take a look at it because after you get past this week, 3 straight weeks, number 10 Texas A&M, then you go to number 5 Georgia and Missouri. This could be a little test when we're talking about what Auburn can do here. Your thoughts on how they might survive this?
Yeah, I think anytime you look at schedules, you kind of look at it in maybe compartments, and I think for Auburn, it definitely was a first 3-game stretch. You on the road to Baylor. Can you find a way to win on the road and then take care of business at home? Then you go 3-game stretch here where you start going, okay, you knew these were going to be tough. Obviously, the back end probably looks tougher than maybe most expected coming into this season with the way Vanderbilt's played, and obviously, Missouri, Arkansas looked pretty good. But yeah, you go on the road back-to-back weeks, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, bye week before Georgia. So you start going, hey, can you try to grab one of these on the road? And I think that's the thing now that you look at for Auburn going, look, it's not 1990 anymore where one loss keeps a season. You can now go on the road, try to win a game. Even if you drop one, though, it's not the end of the road. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois last year at home in week 2 and played for the national championship. So look, go out there, put your best foot forward, try to win one of these 2. Auburn's been really good at home over the years, even tough at home, even though they haven't been really good the last couple of years. So I think you look at it for them, try to go see what you can do on the road. And I think the key for this team, we've seen it all year so far, is to not try to do too much. Take care of the football. Don't make mistakes. That was the killer for this team last year.
He's done that so far. There's a reason why he's the second betting favorite in the Heisman conversation. We've seen the numbers. It just showed it there for everybody at home. But what have you noticed through these 3 games that's put him in that conversation from your perspective?
Yeah, John Mateer has been as advertised for Oklahoma so far. Everything really they could have hoped for through the first 3 games. There's still a long way to go, but what he's doing with his legs, obviously, has 9 straight games with a passing and rushing touchdown, which is the longest streak in the country right now. He's making plays through the air. He's extending plays with his legs. Obviously, like I just said, he's making plays on the ground himself. Had an over 50-yard touchdown last weekend on the ground against Temple, and he's commanded the team. He's without a doubt the leader of the team. He's one of the team captains. He's the face of it. Just everything Oklahoma desperately needed to find in the transfer portal. John's been that, and he answered the bell in that big test a couple weeks ago with Michigan. So it's not hard to see why he's at the top of kind of the Heisman conversation right now. And there's a long way to go, but the way he's playing and the way Oklahoma's playing as a team, he's going to have every chance to be in that convo right to the very end if the team could find a way to continue to stack wins. Obviously, with the schedule they have in the SEC, they'll be in that playoff conversation as well if they can find a way to keep finding a way to win these games against ranked teams every single week. So, yeah, John Mateer, A+ so far. It's still super early, but don't know how much more Oklahoma could have really hoped for from him so far in his first year in Norman.
I know the conversation for both of you guys is all going to be about the quarterbacks going into this game, but I'm curious, outside of the QBs, maybe a storyline that us in the national media may not know about the team itself. And Jason, I'll start with you. Give me maybe 1 or 2 nuggets in terms of the team that may stand out to us on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's lines of scrimmage. Auburn went out and got a couple of transfer offensive tackles. Xavier Chaplin from Virginia Tech, Mason Murphy from USC. And they've responded well, especially in running the football. And so you look at that on the other side, rotating a lot of defensive linemen up front. Keldrick Falk's obviously the big name guy, but Kieran Crawford's having a really good start to the season. So you look at all the numbers for John Mateer, and I still think football comes back to line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to be really important for Auburn is can you control, you heard it, 9 straight games passing and rushing touchdown. I think for Auburn, it has to start on the ground. And because once you let somebody run the football, it's probably over with. So for Auburn, how well can you run it and slow down the run game is going to be a big key on Saturday.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking right off that, Oklahoma's best defensive player, maybe best player on the entire roster, depending on who you ask, Mason Thomas, edge rusher, is going to miss the first half this weekend. Got a targeting against Temple in the second half in Philadelphia last weekend. So he's going to be out for the first half. That's kind of a huge question mark for Oklahoma. And the defensive line has been the strength of the team so far. They've had a lot of guys playing really well. But what does that look like when that top guy is out for obviously the first 2 quarters against an Auburn team that could run the ball the way Jackson Arnold's running the football? That's a big question mark for Oklahoma this weekend. And I certainly feel like they have the guys on paper to kind of, weather that storm until Mason can get back in there in the second half. But that's a huge question mark this weekend. What does this defense look like without that anchor, that guy that is expected to be like an all SEC level of player and has been so far for Oklahoma? So that's a huge storyline this weekend, just kind of navigating the waters. The defense has been so good so far, but now you're missing that huge piece, only for a half, but still that could be quite significant on Saturday. So that's a big storyline for Oklahoma on the defensive side going into the weekend.
As always, it comes down to the trenches, as both of you kind of highlighted there. We're at the point now where we have number 22 versus number 11, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday. I need you to give me a pick. Josh, you have first word there.
Yeah, I feel kind of similar to this game how I did a couple weeks ago when Michigan came to Norman, where it just felt like if Oklahoma's defense can handle their business at home, the offense, if you can just give them, a solid outing, don't make any huge egregious mistakes, they should have a chance to play well and win. They did that against Michigan, and they got the job done and won that game. I feel pretty similar this time. I would lean Oklahoma to get the job done. They've defended the run extremely well so far. I know that's what Auburn is kind of hoping they can do this weekend. And this is the best offense I think Oklahoma will have faced so far pretty clearly, and the most capable quarterback, at least at this point in their careers, relative to Jackson Arnold, Bryce Underwood a couple weeks ago. Certainly the most talent on the outside in that wide receiver room. So it's Oklahoma's biggest test offensively, but I love the way they're flying around the field right now. They're as fresh as they could possibly be. They haven't played a lot of snaps. They played a lot of guys the first 3 weeks. So I think Oklahoma's defense will play really well, and with the way John Mateer's playing, you feel confident offensively. So I think Oklahoma, very similar to Michigan, a really strong defensive outing. Offense is good enough, and the Sooners get the job done and win on Saturday.
Yeah, you look at it from an Auburn perspective, and this opportunity. They haven't had many of these wins in the past 5 or 6 years, really, since 2019, where you go on the road and play a quality team like this and come away with a victory. So I think you look at it, for me, it's all about Auburn's defense. That was the unit that we thought coming into the season was going to be the strength of this team, and the back end of the defense hasn't played that great against Baylor and South Alabama. But those are also two pretty good offenses. So they've already seen some teams that can throw it around, do some things. So I think they kind of know, okay, where do you need to improve on? What do you need to work on? But for me, I look at this one as opportunity, and I see a team that has some older guys that are hungry, and I think they just find a way to win. I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be really tough. But I think this is one of those opportunities that we haven't seen Auburn take advantage of for quite a while, that maybe it's time they do just that.
All right, Jason, good job. You can go back home after the game. No matters what happens in this one.
Either way, that's right.
Yeah. Josh and Jason, appreciate your time. Of course, we'll see that game 3:30 Eastern on Saturday between the two sides. But don't forget, the conversation continues. College football on YouTube. Check out everything from our guys here, always tapping in. We're heading into another weekend. All you got to do is subscribe and use that QR code.